Mr. Schmidt, who is a 4-year English teacher, ongoing, hopefully continuing, and Esports coach and instructor here at Harvard, bringing you here. How you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you very much for having me, Avery. I appreciate it a lot. Yeah, going on. Definitely planning on staying here for as many years as they'll have me.
Yeah. That's good. I don't know if you just want to break down some of like the emotions you felt of having to bring an esports team to Harvard, since it's not very common for other schools to have them so far yet, I'm assuming.
No, it is not very common, which honestly is something that really inspired me to bring esports to Harvard specifically. I grew up playing a lot of video games, and I wish I had the opportunity when I was in high school. So by the time I was in college, I was starting to see the popularity from competitive gaming, and I believe it's Roosevelt University or Robert Millikan, one of the two, was the first near us to offer full scholarship rides for things like League of Legends, which is just, an online MOBA game that not many people take seriously, but the idea that you could suddenly save, tens of thousands of dollars on a passion that you have in education in any field, and fund that by playing games, and other passion that you have, is really inspiring to me, and that's really kind of why I wanted to bring it to Harvard. It seemed like a unique opportunity that our students wouldn't have seen yet.
How do you feel as well, like seeing those students who more so like video games on the side, but who aren't really like involved in a sport or an activity that transitions into like a sport for them, like a season, since, or is it seasonally or all around, or how is that?
Yeah, so we function year-round, but we do function like a breakup of seasons. So we have the fall, the winter, and the spring, with each games, or separate games, I should say, dedicated to each season. And it's been really interesting, and I would say one of the biggest challenges for our players coming out and getting used to the expectations for sports. I mean, dealing for the first time with things like eligibility in your senior year and realizing, oh, I can't skip any class, or oh, I'm expected to have all of these classes being passed, even last year as a part of eligibility. So having students realize, oh shoot, like I have this opportunity, but I kind of hurt myself a little bit, and didn't really set myself up for that success to use it, is definitely a shift for a lot of my players to realize, oh, we have to be on top of our stuff with study hours, study tables, and now we have players on the team who don't hang out normally, studying together just so they can bring their grades up and keep showing up, which is amazing for me to see.
Going into that as well, like with being eligible, and like, do you guys practice after school or stuff like that?
Yeah, we try to model as much of an everyday sport that you would imagine as closely as I physically can. So we have practices Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday currently. Hopefully down the road we get an assistant coach as well, and that will bring us into more things like Mondays, Fridays, having some more open free days, as well as we do have competitions available on Saturdays. And that's something that hopefully with more coaching and more people and just more scheduling, we'll be able to participate in all of that. And that's been an interesting challenge. So yeah, we show up every, like I said, Tuesday through Thursday, 3 through 5, and that's dedicated to whatever game they choose to play competitively. So for this season, we just finished up with Valorant, which is a first-person shooter, very much so akin to like the Call of Duty Search and Destroy style setups. And we have Mario Kart. So those two just finished, and they had a wonderful season of practicing and getting into the habit of what this real competition world is like, and it's been interesting to see them adjust.
Are the competitions mostly like on Saturdays, or are they through like the weekdays as well? Or?
They commit to the same days every week. So Mario Kart was every single Tuesday, and we have one game coming up this next Tuesday. And Valorant was every Wednesday at 5. So the nice thing, at least compared to soccer or football or basketball, is we don't have to have different times depending on how far the school is and calling students out of class. I mean, it's always 5 o'clock that day online, just make sure students are available, which is great for accessibility, making sure students can all be available.
Is that like through like IHSA? Is it like a program, or like other schools that
It is, yes. We run through a program which is the IHSEA, and they function directly with the IHSA. So again, trying to mirror as much of that actual sport as we physically can. So we have the state of Illinois itself saying, hey, this is a recognized activity. Now we have these programs who are functioning sort of through us. So,
do you tend to play like the same schools a lot? Since there's not very much around. I'm assuming, or is there much around?
We don't face as many schools of the same type, only because even though there aren't as many schools participating in esports as actively right now, we have a lot of schools across the whole state. To where, with our football team, they might be limited in, 3 hours away. Oh, we're not going to drive that far to face that school. They're out of our conference, quote unquote. Our conference is all of Illinois. So we've faced so far schools on this side of St. Louis. We have faced schools on the very southern tip of Illinois, a lot of Chicago schools that I've never heard of. I didn't realize there were just so many schools within the city of Chicago. And it's been really interesting to see, it's a fun game for students to play. How far would we have to drive for this game today? Oh, that's a 4.5 hour drive to that school. Good thing we're just getting online at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
So that's been really fun to see. Just sort of like the wide reach we cover with the actual program is cool.
What about like the teamwork and skills that your players have throughout, like the skills they learn just playing video games and like having to work together online and stuff like that throughout the game?
Definitely one of their other challenges to work on, because typically for those who do play video games, you don't always have that team of friends online, and for those who do, it's great, but communication is, for those who play sports, it's a major part of what you do. You can't succeed if you aren't working together as a team. And that's been a huge adjustment for our players, as everyone is so used to playing with that one friend or just grinding on their own and trying to carry the team, where now they're actually forced to communicate and rely a little bit more on each other. It definitely makes or breaks some situations. You can really see under the pressure who can handle that, like ability to be the shot caller and be like the captain in that case. But for those that can handle it, you really do see them. I've seen some good transformation in just their character so far. Their confidence and their ability to lead others and kind of find their own way with that is really neat.
How do you feel as well with like the types of PCs we have? Because I'm not very familiar with like the whole PC setup and stuff. Like, is that pretty high tech?
Yeah, thankfully we've had a lot of great support from the actual school and the central office in getting this program started. It's something that I've been passionately trying to get started for about 2 years now. But obviously a big part of starting anything is getting that hype out there, assessing numbers for who's going to join, and trying to get a base for where we can start. So kind of off the picture up here on the board that I have, this is our esports lab. We have 24 desktops with monitors, keyboard, mice, headset included, desks and chairs, everything covered. We're even looking into the option of getting like individual arm swivel mounts for each monitor, so you can move the actual screens around wherever you prefer. Really high-tech stuff. The PCs are better than even my own personal gaming devices at home. So we tried to make sure that we could get the best for students while not going too far where we're afraid things are going to break right away.
Yeah.
And that what isn't actually in the picture as well is we have 12 Nintendo Switches with 6 TVs that have been delivered. So we've been able to get into the games like that Mario Kart and that Super Smash Bros, which is coming up in the winter season here soon. So even the ability to play across devices is really neat.
Since you guys have PCs, you mostly don't like have Xboxes and like the PSs, right? Like, are the players allowed to like use controllers and mouse and keyboard?
If the game
preference?
allows, yes. So for example, in the spring, for those who are familiar with the game Overwatch, that is a game that allows you to use controllers naturally. It's part of their game. Valorant, however, does not allow you to, so if the game allows it, students are always able to bring whatever equipment they want. I've had students prefer their own mice, keyboards, mouse pads, monitors. I basically let anyone bring in whatever they want for personal devices, as long as they understand that I can't guarantee that I protect that. I can't guarantee their glass mouse pad walks out the same way it came in, because that's delicate stuff. So yeah, we've had a lot of students try to use their own equipment and their own, personal setups, which is great. I mean, compared to, I'm always comparing to other sports to see how we can be our best form of ourselves, and that's something that I like. I don't know if you can for things like soccer or football, if you have all your own gear, how much of that you're allowed to bring, or how much has to be sort of like team stuff.
Yeah.
So it's been great, honestly, and I'm so grateful that we have the support from the school that we do, because, obviously none of this would be possible without that.
Was like the process and like getting the yes and go to able to have like the esports team in this lab, was that hard from the school, or was the school supportive on that and grants and stuff?
Definitely supportive. You could tell, I would describe it as like an excited but cautionary sense. Like everyone was really excited for the option, really excited to see this new development and what especially it could bring to students that aren't engaged in other things. The big fear is, when you're spending over $20, $30, $50,000 total on a certain amount of equipment, they want to make sure there's buy-in. They want to make sure that this is being used, it's being used effectively, and it's being used in a way that will promote student success and not just come play some games, hang out.
Yeah.
So that has definitely been the hardest part, I guess, is just making sure all of our ducks are in a row, all of our forms are filled out, and that we are being very clear on our purpose and our results.
Yeah, I got a question for you as well with this. Like other sports, I know like soccer, baseball, and football sometimes have like open gyms where they just go out and play and have fun. Do you guys support that as well, or like have a system like that?
Yeah, that is something we're trying to hammer out the details of a little bit more. We don't have every of the 24 computers working just yet. That is still being set up by myself in our tech department, so ideally I would say by the end of this semester we're trying to make sure that's an available lab for anyone. So what that'll look like, at least with this picture, is throughout the day, say for example if you have a design class, a digital imaging class, if you have maybe an accounting class that uses a specific software, you can reserve this lab and show up with your whole class and just say, hey guys, we're using these for today, hop onto a device and let's actually get some really high-powered work done with this newer hardware. And then after school we are trying to get into the option for like a free play day, either free Fridays, which the kids have come up with the name for, or just if we have the devices, letting students come in and say, hey, you're registered quote-unquote with the team, but you're not competing. You can just come in whenever you want, hang out with friends and play some games casually. So we're trying to get into more of that, but the system of making sure that everyone in there is held accountable is an important one. I don't want someone coming in, a random student I've never seen, grabbing a controller and possibly walking out. So that's always my concern.
With that as well, like if kids do want to come in for that free play time, like are they restricted to any games, or are those games like, I know there's like millions of games out there, like I don't know.
Yeah, so
restrict some of them or allow some of them?
I wish that I could say they could just download any game that they want. The only reason I say no is because with the devices we have, there's only so much storage space. So we have roughly 1 terabyte, which is equivalent to 10 Call of Duties. So I mean, if a student comes in and downloads Call of Duty, that's great, but if another student comes in and downloads Call of Duty on a computer that already has Overwatch, a separate Call of Duty, now we have Fortnite, now we have this other game, and that software that I mentioned for classes, that adds up really fast and makes them impossible to use. So that's the downside right now to the actual free play days. We are limited to whatever games we compete in the actual club, which is limited to Valorant, Rocket League, Fortnite, Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros, Apex Legends, Call of Duty, Pokemon Unite, and I want to say Splatoon. There's one more that's just slipping my mind.
Is there any other pictures you want to show of athletes or stuff like that, gaming and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been some fun photos so far of just the various lab stuff we have. The photo I have doesn't include the TVs that have been hung up. We have some photos of, this is the JV Valorant team going through and practicing, getting a little bit of like their post game. They were looking at footage and trying to critique one another in specific plays, which is something that honestly, again, comparing to other sports, is so great to have for esports. You know, you don't always have the option for, on the football team, oh, you had a bad play, we saw that fumble. You can't instantly sit with the team and look back at that play at that moment and say what went wrong. But for esports, at least, it's one great benefit of all of our recording software and everything with those games. We can look after every single game, pull it up on the big screen and say, here's what each person did wrong, or what we could have done better, or opposite, you know, this is what we're killing it on, keep it up. Which is just awesome for feedback and team engagement, collaboration. I mean, just seeing players that I didn't think would really mesh socially, you know, become best friends in the team so far has been really cool.
Like, what season are you in? Like, game-wise? What is the game right now?
We just finished up with Valorant for the fall season, so now we're going into Super Smash Bros. For the winter season. That will be all on the TVs.
How many, like, players is that?
For the Super Smash Bros. Season, we have either two versions they can do. They have individuals, so solos, or they can come in with a crew of 5, and that's sort of just like a knockout round where you have so many lives between you and the 5 players on your side, and you have to get rid of the other 15 lives on their side before yours run out. So, very fun and a lot of unique styles for gameplay. I mean, not stuff that people constantly see. As well as the varsity team practicing. It is fun to see as well the difference in just communications and mindsets between the two teams and sort of how they present themselves. My varsity team is like on it when it comes to things like communication and their mindset. Like, these guys could go 12 rounds of getting destroyed, never having a chance, and you know, they're still going to be smiling, having fun. Where with the JV, they're practicing a lot more with, you know, how do we handle those tough losses and how do we stay in that competitive mindset even when I don't feel like I stand a chance.
While you're in your competitions, like, how long do they usually last, like, game-wise? Like, do they play 3 games, or how does that work?
Correct. So that varies a little bit by which game we play, but generally it's like a best of 3 or best of 5 game set. So like for Valorant, since that's longer games, you have to win 12 rounds in a single game to like win that game. We play best of 5 games, or best of 3 technically. So it's just whoever wins those first 2, you're good, you win. Which has been really fun to see them and their like roller coaster of emotions, because if they win that first game but the second game is, you know, they get destroyed, you could see them really start planning, and in that 5 minutes between games, they like literally form their own team huddle and start debating, okay, you know, you need to throw down better smokes whenever we run up on the site, and you need to make sure you're covering your angles for the bomb plants and things like that, and just higher level, I guess, communication that I would have expected, which I feel like I've said it a couple times, but it's always just so inspiring to see from students.
Especially some of those students who probably never had a relationship before this, that just wanted a game and they came together and just build those relationships after that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was one big influence for this club was I was someone who was kind of forced into sports when I was in high school. I didn't have the option. I was just told, pick one as long as you pick something. But I mean, for the students who don't feel like they have a calling for sports, if they don't feel athletically inclined, like, you know, I didn't feel like I could confidently catch a ball until probably sophomore year of college, which is why I did swimming in high school. But for students, you know, like me, who not are afraid or don't want to, but just don't feel the calling to sports, that's been one reason why I love esports, because it's taken that passion they already have and giving them an avenue to say, you already love this game, you already play this every day with your friends. Why not show others how good you are? Why not possibly win scholarships, win tournaments? I mean, one example I tell students to inspire them is Justin Voss, our department chair for the English team. He did competitive gaming when he was in high school and college. He played Call of Duty and multiple tournaments. I mean, money-winning tournaments, stuff that, you know, for some of our students could change their lives. I'm talking like thousands of dollars walking out for being good at Call of Duty, you know, and that kind of stuff really both inspires me and the students to get their acts together and take it a little bit more seriously. It's not just a game in that case.
Yeah. Would it be a possibility, like, further on to see, like, I mean, you really can't watch them, like, would it be streamed somewhere that we'd be able to watch, like, them compete in the competitions, or be there? I mean, it's kind of hard to, like, stand behind them and watch them. Like, would it be streamed?
Yeah, that is definitely one of our goals, is to have people come in if they can or if they're free. We do have a limited amount of room available that they can hang out and watch people. I also stream the games on Twitch, and that's something we're looking for on the team, as well as just having players, as we need someone to be like a manager. We also need a stream manager, someone, you know, literally running that Twitch account while I'm behind the players and coaching them through the different plays and what's going on in game. So we are trying to consistently stream on Twitch and have that available for, you know, anyone in the school, the community, the town to watch. We have the main Mario Kart screen. And it is nice to see how organized all these games are. It takes the stress off of me, at least. For even things like Mario Kart, which you'd expect, oh, it's literally just go-kart racing. How hard can it be? Hop in the lobby, race some other people. But I mean, the profiles and leagues that we run through are so official with all of this stuff. I mean, they even go so far as to describe what is like unsportsmanlike conduct in Mario Kart, which is hilarious to see that you can have a student get, like, you know, a flag thrown against them or a foul because they're being bogus in a racing game.
Also, that's pretty hardcore, like, strict-wise?
Yeah, strict-wise. Even for games like Valorant, for those who are gamers and are familiar with the term teabagging.
Oh, wow.
Strictly bannable offense. If I have a player on Valorant kill another on the other team, a player, and drop down and crouch twice in a row, that's all it takes, we forfeit. We lose that round.
That's actually insane.
It is really impressive, and honestly, it's cool to me to see because, you know, it's not fun to be losing a game competitively, even for, you know, a video game, and then just be like taunted by the other team. Even, you know, for normal sports, quote unquote normal sports, that's never fun, and that's, you know, I'm sure why those rules exist.
So there's like officials that are watching the game while the students are playing?
Yes, so we coaches both count as officials on both sides, and there is a technical official that we can call into our Discord call at any point. So I basically just click a button on our profile, and someone from the league will instantly drop into our game and start reviewing our footage and what's going on and say, hey, I'm here, what do you need, what happened? And they'll determine if it's, like, you know, a bannable offense, if it was something really serious, if something's inappropriate.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was that level of intensity.
Yeah, we've even had to force students to change gamer tags and usernames from, you know, inappropriate things. Even if for things that are borderline inappropriate, you know, like I have one guy whose name was like Torta Pounder, and he tried to explain to me, he's like, Schmidt, you know, it's just my love of tortas. I go home and I devour them nonstop, and I'm like, you know, it's just, it gives me that weird feeling. I'm trying to, especially for our first year on it, my big focus for the team is we need to be professional. We need to be serious, legitimate. I don't want to load in and someone say, oh, Harvard High School, like, what a joke, and laugh us off. I don't want anyone to laugh at us. And so far, I'm really impressed with our team. They have stuck to that.
Are they allowed to use their personal accounts here, or does it have to be like, no, they can't? It doesn't have to be like a specific school account that can only stay here and all the progress is there? Or?
Yeah, that is one nice thing too, where students can use those school accounts. So say, for example, you play Call of Duty yourself and you're really proud of your achievements. You know, you have every skin and camo and grind unlocked for all the stuff you've committed to. You can just log into that account at Esports and keep using your progress and build up that progress further with us. And that's something we're really proud to be able to, like, have that sort of, I hate to use the term, plug and play feature, where students can just sit down at any of our devices, log in, and go.
It's a great addition. Are the PCs being used, like, touching back on what we said that, like, some of the other classes could come in and use that software and stuff, but as of right now, like, are they just for, like, esports and gaming, or are they being used for, like, other projects throughout the high school that you know of?
As of this moment, for this, like, you know, probably the last month worth, they are just dedicated to esports, only because of fine-tuning things like the tech and the firewall. With, understandably, you as a student can't load up your Chromebook and download a game and start playing Mario Kart at school. So we've had to, with esports, run into the very unique issues of how do we get our games through the Wi-Fi? How are we allowed to play our games while not allowing students to play those games 24/7? So that's the only downside is, say for example, you were able to go into this lab, unobserved, just you sneaking in on your own. There's nothing stopping you from downloading anything and everything you wanted on any of these computers. I mean, a student could, get into some trouble with things that they're Googling and downloading on school Wi-Fi. So right now it's limited to who can use it, only until we fine-tune exactly how to work that firewall. Yeah, so once it's reliable, and I can guarantee students aren't just gonna start playing Minecraft the moment they sit down for their computer programming class, then the lab will be available to everyone.
That's awesome. There's 2 rows, right? There's like that row and another row?
Correct. We have 2 rows of 6, 6 on each side, so 24 total. And then you can sort of see on this picture along the sides of the TVs here, the corkboard is where we have 3 TVs mounted, and then directly to the right of this picture there is another TV mounted. So currently we have 4 TVs mounted, including the ViewSonic, the large TV in every classroom, so a total of 5 TVs available for Mario Kart and Smash Bros.
And like when the season right now is Mario Kart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they can't play it on the monitor, they have to play it through the TV?
If they preferred to, they could play on the monitor, yeah. Yeah, we offer that option for them as well. The biggest excitement, honestly, for students has been the chairs. They love having fun, comfortable, fancy chairs to sit in, and circling back to it, I'm grateful that we were able to get all the things that we were able to for this lab, because I mean a lot of the stuff isn't cutting corners. We made sure, working with up through the tech department, working with Mr. Hobbs here at the high school, even working up so far to the district office with Dr. Tafoya. Everyone was on the same page with, we want this to be set up with the perfect scenario. Pretend that it is all perfect. Let's go off that assumption. Let's not try to cut corners. Let's not try to be cheap about this and have to replace things in a year. With technology, that's a huge mindset to have, and I'm really grateful that everyone was on the same page there.
That's something that you get the support from the board and teachers and staff and everything else.
Yeah, I'm immensely grateful. I've gotten nothing but support and love for the team and for what we're doing and everything so far. So honestly, I only hope to keep building it up, and I guess my only goal is to not let the momentum fall. I want to keep them improving and never stop.
It's kind of crazy that we were able to get an esports lab compared to some other schools who probably are bigger and don't have this kind of stuff, so it's a nice little flex for Harvard.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a good score 1, quote unquote, if you want to consider us score 1 for the underdog, because I mean the only school nearby that I can think of that has a comparable lab would be McHenry, and McHenry is one of the, I guess, more resourced schools in our whole area. I mean, they have, especially with their referendum they just passed, a lot of new technology, new facilities, new everything. So for us to be able to compete with someone who is, kind of leading the cutting edge aspect of things, it's really fun to be able to say, hey, no, it's not just you up there. We're also here in the spotlight. And I love that.
It's awesome that you're able to bring this here. I'm sure the students and staff appreciate it, especially those kids who have a passion outside and just felt like they can only express it at home, and now they can bring it here and do what they love. It's awesome.
Absolutely. It's something that I'm very grateful for, and it fills me with a little bit of energy each day. If I ever come in tired or just having a rough morning, I know that the moment I see those kids and their passion for it and hopping into it and their energy, it just kind of washes all that away.
Once again, I'm Avery Gonzalez, and I'm here with Mr. Schmidt. thank you for being on here. We appreciate it. We appreciate your time and your effort and energy that you put into the school.
Thank you very much, Avery. It was a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.